We honestly don't know the full extent of the damage. It probably will take several more days.
As debris is cleared, says Homeland Security Advisor Liz Sherwood Randall, who also says there may be as many as 600 deaths. About that many are unaccounted for, with more than 120 people already known dead in 6 states. Some areas remain underwater and unreachable.
The western end of North Carolina, far from any coastline, is in crisis due to anticipated and unprecedented flooding.
We need people to not come here.
Lillian Govas with Buncombe County, which includes a devastated city of Asheville, to which all roads, including I-40.
That interstate is closed because the top of a mountain has actually slid down and covered that entire interstate.
Aid and relief workers have been transported in via helicopter. Search and rescue is still underway with help from crews from 19 states.
Fox's Evan Brown. President Biden pledging continued federal help, and he expects to visit affected areas later this week. Former President Trump visiting Georgia today, highlighting food and fuel deliveries and the work of nonprofit Samaritan's Purse. Vice President Harris cutting short a campaign trip out west. With thousands of port workers set to walk off the job tomorrow on the East Coast and Gulf Coast, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is urging President Biden to invoke his authority to block a strike. White House spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre says the president is not considering that.
Senior officials from the White House Labor Department and Transportation Department are in touch with the parties to urge them to return to the table and negotiate in good faith towards an agreement that benefits all sides, and do it fairly and quickly.
The International Longshoremen's Association in a stalemate with port operators largely over pay after the recent inflation surge. A mixed finish turns into a late rally on Wall Street. The Dow up about 17 points at the bell. America is listening to Fox News.
Donald Trump Jr. here. Since January of 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but you can stop your losses by diversifying into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. That's SHELTER to the number 989898 to get your free info kit from Birch Gold now.
Message and data rates may apply.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. So at Consumer Cellular, we're lowering the price for those 50 and up. Now you can get unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 a line when you buy 2. That's just $60 a month for 2 unlimited lines. So if you're 50 and up, make the switch and save. Come on, you've earned this. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today. Requires 2 lines of service, age validation, and credit approval, subject to system and area limits, taxes, and other fees apply.
A day after President Biden said he was not planning to send more U.S. troops to the Middle East, the Pentagon is sending a few thousand more to help bolster security as Israel begins a ground incursion in South Lebanon.
We are in the early. Troops are moving now to begin what is described as a limited ground incursion.
Fox's Mike Tobin in Haifa, Israel. Israeli officials say they're focused on allowing residents in northern Israel to return home. This follows airstrikes that have killed multiple Hezbollah commanders, including longtime leader Hassan Nasrallah. A judge has just struck down Georgia's ban on abortions that allows them to resume beyond 6 weeks into pregnancy. California is expanding access to IVF treatments with a new law requiring insurers to cover the cost.
California Governor Gavin Newsom signs Senate Bill 729 into law, requiring large group health plans to provide coverage for the diagnosis and treatment of infertility and fertility service, including in vitro fertilization, IVF. Newsom notes it also expands health care benefits to LGBTQ plus individuals trying to have children. The governor saying in a statement, "We are proud to help every Californian make their own choices about the family they want." The measure, which is expected to go into effect in July of next year, comes after congressional lawmakers were unable to pass bills protecting IVF access. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Recapping the turnaround on Wall Street, stocks had been mainly lower, but the Dow finishes up 17 points, the S&P up 24, the NASDAQ up 69. And Lisa Brady, Fox News.
You think football is still fun?
Yes.
Sir?
Yes, no.
No?
Sir, well, it was fun.
Not anymore, though, is it? Is it?
No, not by
No, it's not fun anymore, not even a little bit.
Wrong-o.
Here comes the The one and only Jay Lane.
We talk about everything. If you guys want the real talk,
Here we go.
In this season, guys. If you win games, it takes care of everything. That's what I'm excited about.
Begging up the middle. And ahead to the 15.
First and 10 for the Illini. Football is such an emotional game. The stakes are just higher.
Illinois upsets Maryland on homecoming.
You never know what's going to happen in a given game.
Lon got off the ledges. He's in the penthouse.
Come join me.
He's in the jacuzzi hanging out. He believes that this is the team. The opposite of last year. We are high on the hopium.
One other thing.
I love the war chant.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
Let's go!
High week for Illini football, but Jay putting in the work to break down a 21-7 defeat there in State College. Illinois leaves Happy Valley unhappy, but not totally demoralized or anything. They weren't extremely outclassed. Now, there are certain areas that we can pinpoint and say Illinois needs to get better, especially going into the future and trying to shore up some things to make this a season that could be a 8-win, 9-win. It's not totally recalibrating your expectations, but interested to dive into that with Jay. Lante will be around with us as we go along. It's interesting. We joked before the show, Jay, that Lon through the first 4 wins here on time. Everything business is normal. Now Illinois loses. The Cardinals get embarrassed yesterday against the Commanders. And
Yes.
Where's Lon?
He's gone. He's late, right? Lon's late when we lose, and he's late when the Cardinals get boat raced by Jayden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury, who that guy's resurrected his career more than anybody. My gosh.
yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, Cliff Kingsbury, he's the man now. That being said, let's talk about Illinois football. And it wasn't all bad at all.
Right.
It's a one-possession game with about halfway through the fourth quarter. Lots of missed opportunities, really on both sides of the football. Obviously, the pivotal moment of this game was into the first half, your first and goal from the 2, and Brett said in his post-game presser, said, listen, you can't be at the 2, first and goal against a top 10 team and not get any points. Just doesn't add up. Ended up being like a 44-yard field goal that Alano missed wide left, and then they come out the very first drive of the second half and stick it to him 14-7. He said, oh, man, is this going to kind of be the rest of the game? And Illinois defensively made some stops. It felt like it kind of like Kansas, like, please throw the football. Because I really felt with Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen, we told you prior to this, the last 30 years, all those backs have been built different, right? Kajana Carter, Curtis Enos, Larry Johnson. They've had some, Evan Royster, I'll put him up there. He had a lot of yards. Saquon Barkley. They just are built different, big tree trunk legs. You felt that if they ran the ball 3 or 4 times straight, they'd get 10 yards every time. But offensive corners get cute. Brett Bielema did play field position early in that game with Hugh Robertson, elected not to kick a field goal and pinned him inside the 10 twice, made him go the full yards, and then they kind of choked up in that high red zone area. So there's a lot of stuff that you're like, okay, that's a bonus. Offensively, had nothing going in the second half. Didn't even have enough plays to get touches to the guys we want to get touches at, maybe Pat Bryant, Zakari, or Caden Fagan. But that being said, all the goals for Illinois football, they're still intact. You give me 4-1 at the end of September, you're going to be pretty happy with that. Now, we're going to the meat of our schedule. We're in the meat right now with 3 games in October, 2 of them against top 10 teams, Michigan and Oregon. I still feel really good about this football team. I think this can be an 8-win team. This can be a 9-win team. Can you go 5-1, 6-1 the last 7 games? Boy, that's a stretch, you would think, with who they're playing. But maybe. You never know.
I want to break that down as we go along, the calibration of expectations from this bye week and on, and just overall kind of the thoughts on what's gone right through 4-1 and what certainly can get better going forward. That opening drive was a beautiful one, similar to Nebraska the first time Illinois got the ball, went all the way down the field and scored. That seemed like another statement when the Illini took that and turned that into a touchdown. Certainly,
well, Lundy can dial up a first drive.
Oh, man, yeah.
And he's fair, because if a D lineman has to be conscious of the run, he can't just rush the quarterback and get upfield, or he'll get gashed. And this is where we've got to keep implementing the RPO. We've got to get their interior run game fixed. I believe that Caden Fagan, I know we want to rotate people when it comes to running back. At least out of the running back position, Caden Fagan's playing at a higher level than all the other backs. And so I think he's earned more carries. Obviously, he started the game. I know those other guys bring different things to it, but we simply didn't have enough plays in the second half to even get a rotation going. And Caden Fagan had the most success, especially in that second quarter against that Penn State D.
Jay, I was going through some PFF grades here, season long and also individually for the last game in State College. Josh Geske had a pass blocking grade of 0 in the game against Penn State. You got Josh Kreutz, who has not graded out well on the season as a whole. Zy Chrysler, pretty much the same, in that there's a lot leaving to be desired still, especially that interior trio. That's where I want to serve it up to you, is that how much better can they get, and is that something that needs to be considered in the bye week? You think that, do you plug in somebody else to try to improve what's been a lackluster interior offensive line?
Well, what's frustrating to me is that some of our best offensive linemen were not necessarily developed here at Illinois now. Right? Melvin Priestley was at Grambling State and obviously had the spring here. J.C. Davis had a spring here, but our best offensive linemen are really transfer portal guys. And so I think that's frustrating to me, at least through 5 games. That's not a knock on the coaching staff. That's just the reality. Number 2 is you think that Josh Kreutz, kind of his lineage and being a second-year starter and who he is, would be a really consistent, maybe not flashy and overpowering player, but be really consistent. We haven't necessarily seen that. The snap was obviously probably the one that highlighted the most. But we're just not getting any interior push out of those 3 guys sometimes, and we really struggle with movement. Like, I don't think Geske or Zy Chrysler are going to get out-mauled by somebody, but the quickness of Penn State was a problem with the movement, and when they brought extra guys, I think what's also the errors, you went to the portal and got a guy in Kevin Wigington who, out of Michigan State, who has some game experience, got banged up in training camp. He's been getting some more reps. Hunter Whitenack's been getting some. I mean, this is a time where you, in the bye week, you say, okay, do we make a shift in the offensive line of who our best 5 guy? Brandon Henderson. Here's a guy I think plays really physical when he's in, either at the tight end or fullback or extra positions that he's in. Do you move him in? I know he's more of a natural tackle, but is he one of your best 5 that you got to get on the field? And Brandon Henderson. So I think you have those are kind of your top 8 offensive linemen. That being said, we really need Henry Boyer to get healthy as well, to run more 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends. We've had a lot of 11 personnel. We haven't been able to max protect. I'd love to see max protection where we keep 2 tight ends and a back end. So if they bring 6, 7, 8, we can then throw it up to Pat Bryant, who I think can beat double coverage, or Zachary Franklin on the slant route, on the out route, where we can get those matchups and quick throws and give Luke time, right? It's not all on the offensive line, but truly they were outclassed up front in the run game, could not get anything going. And we can't get the going. You can't possess the ball. You can't run the RPO. The play action hurts, and the defensive line pins their ears back. And that's what really defeated this offense, especially in the second half, is we didn't have a threat of the run. And they knew it, and Tom Allen brought the heat.
17 carries for 62 yards. When you look at the running back trio, Caden Fagan, Aiden Lawfrey, Josh McCray. Caden, decent game. I mean, you're about 5 yards a carry, but only 13 carries there to give in terms of a workload. And like you said, in the fourth quarter, Illinois, it was pretty obvious they were not going to be trying to run the ball. And man, that pass rush for Penn State is pretty talented.
I mean, that's the most talented. Here's the thing. I think this might be the best team we see all year, matchup-wise. I know Oregon's going to be good. And I'm usually a Penn State hater. Like, I'm usually like Penn State's overrated. But they went out and they got 2 really good coordinators. I think Tom Allen did some good stuff in Indiana. Some of the stuff that hadn't been happening in a long time. And I know they're doing well now. Largely some of the players that were still there from Tom Allen. But he's a kind of a kitchen sink guy. So was Manny Diaz. Meaning they just bring a bunch of pressures and junk, and they have the athletes to do it. We really struggle with that. I think offensively, and Andy Kotelnicki, it's so hard to say that name without breaking it down into 3 different things. Andy Kotelnicki, right? And so what I would say is this is, yeah, they had some different formations. Getting lined up can be tricky. but they have two backs too, also with the threat of the quarterback, that make it really difficult to stop. Like, I think Michigan, yeah, they got a good running attack, but they don't have a throw game like Penn State, right? What we need to do, we did a great job of limiting big plays in the pass game, but we need a couple stunts, a couple something defensively to get a couple negative plays in the run game to stymie that attack. You thought like, okay, please throw the ball, right? Or you thought, man, get a penalty so you can get backed up in the chains. Because it felt like when Katron Allen or Nicholas Singleton never had to make a cut in the backfield, they're always full steam 2 or 3 yards past the line of scrimmage, and then you're on your DBs. And when you get on your DBs full speeds with guys like that, you're going to see your defensive backs get hurt. We saw Matthew Bailey stunned a little bit. You don't see that much, right? We saw Caleb Patterson apparently go out because of a head injury. Get your head across the ball or needed a head from a Nicholas Singleton. It's tough out there, guys. It's brutal. So that might be the best running back matchup offensively that we're going to have a struggle stopping. That's not to say that it was good enough. It wasn't good enough. But it felt like we could not tackle in the box at all. We had opportunities in the defensive front in the linebacker position to tackle. I think James Kreutz and Rosiak would tell you that probably wasn't their best game. I think what was interesting to me is our strongest players, who I perceive as some of our strongest players, Gabe Backus, Seth Coleman, physical strength, Joe Barna. I thought they actually played well because they had the physical strength to get it done. I don't know about you, Pipes, but I was hoping that Johnny Newton would show up or Keith Randolph would show up, right?
No doubt.
It's like we could not stop them at all. And it was just really difficult from a defensive front perspective to get off the field. And so I think that's something we got to address is you look at that core, that interior defensive line. You look at the linebackers. Hey, there can be trade-offs. You can be a guy like, I'll say this about me. I'm not saying I would have done better in this game, but I will say this. I loved a game where there were big backs and they were pulling guards because I could read the pulling guards. I feel like I could get a better read than most people on it. And I want a big back to run at me. Please don't have a scat back that I got to tackle in space, and please don't make me cover a receiver in space, right? And you can have a trade-off. If you have a middle linebacker that can gunk up stuff in the middle like that, hey, we'll trade off having bad pass coverage, right? We've got to get a little bit more physical in there if we're going to compete with some of these upper echelon Big Ten teams.
It's a good breakdown. I know one of the big picture takeaways, and certainly a lot of people, I would imagine, echoed this around their television sets on Saturday night. But Bill says on the Max Twin City Recycling text, and I'll read the front end of it. Illinois was out-athleted, totally get it. He does go into a few other things that we can address here. But that was one thing, and just to see the athleticism, a couple of plays that stick out in my mind. Abdul Carter chasing down Luke Altmaier late in that game where he's kind of playing a spy, and just see the closing speed on him to the sideline. And Nick Singleton's like trucking both your safeties. To run through Matthew Bailey, it's going to take a strong, powerful individual. And that, how did you see that, Jay? Just overall, and it's not totally surprising when you think about the caliber recruit that Penn State commands,
Sure.
the 4 and 5 stars, but how much of an athletic and physical difference did you see? Because to me, watching it, I imagine to a lot of people, it was a huge difference.
I think at the receiver position, we match up really well with anybody in the country. So I think Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin. Now, Zachary, both those guys are not burners, but man, they know how to play with their body and they catch contested balls. Zachary had two catches that were called back because of penalties, right? And we had a lot of penalties. A lot of those were, I'm sure, because of the atmosphere. But I thought we were most out-athleted on the offensive line. Our offensive line did not look the same as Penn State's offensive line as far as movement. Their ability to move, their ability to pull, their ability to run the counters. And then on the defensive line, hey, I don't think Dennis Briggs is out-athleted by anybody. I actually think he's a really good athlete. But he's not a huge 4-eye. I mean, he's not a huge defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. And neither is Alex Bray right now. Do I think Alex Bray and Joe Barna can be good players? I think if you put them in an Iowa-Wisconsin uniform right now, they look like an Iowa-Wisconsin defensive line. We see what Brett Bielema is building, but we're a year away. You can really sense a depth drop-off when you get into that second D-line where they try to play those guys to rest those. It's difficult. And quite frankly, we got to be more physical at the linebacker position. I thought there was too many missed tackles. I think Dylan Rosiak has made his bang for his buck is when he can read and attack downhill. We saw it one play. He did have one tackle for loss in this game. When he can read downhill and attack, I felt like they weren't reading great and they were trying to make tackles 2, 3, 4, 5 yards down the field. And by that time, they just were not tackling great. And so I just felt our linebackers need to play better and we need to do something different defensively to get a couple negative plays, right? I mean, I know we bent but don't broke, and we gave us a chance to win. I'm not knocking Aaron Henry, but there has to be a couple wrinkles where we do take a risk. We do say we're going to get 7-8 in the box and let our guys man up and say Drew Aller beat us. Now, there was a chance where Terrence Brooks did have a PI. Caleb Patterson was out. I get that. And I see what Bill from Troy's saying. It's like, hey, our linebackers need to play better. He also says this. He says Josh Kreutz was standing up. There was other guys standing up as well. And then the running play up the middle with the back standing still when he takes the handoff. We've talked about that, the lack of momentum of downhill action. And I think Caden Fagan, especially Josh McCray, you need more downhill action. Valentine Lafferty, not so much. But all those combined, the big thing is this. We got out-athleted up front on the defensive and offensive line and at the linebacker position. I don't think so much at the quarterback position or at the receiver position or defensive backs. I thought we were comparable, but that's how it is when the difference between a top 25 team and a top 10 team is often the front seven and the offensive line. We saw that on display Saturday.
How did you feel about, I was just curious about this because I knew we were going to hit on this in particular point. By 2007 for your Rose Bowl season, how did you feel about athletically in your front seven against, say, the Ohio States of the world? You play Wisconsin and Bielema. Like, what did that look like? Certainly a transformation earlier in your career at Illinois up until then that season.
Well, first and foremost, I want to start on the offensive side of the football. In 2006 and 2007, Illinois led the Big Ten in rushing.
Right.
Okay? So if you're going to lead the Big Ten in rushing, you're going to be able to control the clock and you're going to have less defense out there. So that was a benefit for us. I think we were a top 30 defense. I mean, we weren't like a great, like lock them down defense, but create a lot of turnovers. I set the Big Ten record for sacks the Illinois record at over 40 sacks that year. So we created some chaos and some negative plays. But if you have a guy like me, certainly not the best athlete, but you can have a backside corner like Vontae Davis who's going to man up that receiver, well, then your safety can help your linebacker on pass coverage, and you can say, hey, Jay, just try to cover something. But we really want you to stop all the runs inside the box. You have a good athlete like Britt Miller who, physical enough to be in the box, but also athletic enough at that time. And you have all these pieces, two hard-hitting safeties in Harrison and Kevin Mitchell. And so you have all these different pieces. And, of course, a D lineman with no star, but Chris Norwell, good defensive tackle. You had Will Davis, Doug Pilcher. You had a lot of guys that made some plays for you. And you felt like you could get off the field when you needed to get off the field and get a stop. I never felt there was a team that just ran over us in 2007 that we couldn't stop, like Wisconsin, Penn State. The only game I felt like that was in the Rose Bowl where they ran 11 straight play-action passes to start that game, right? They weren't running all over us, but they were throwing the ball all over the yard, right? Mm-hmm. And they knew we were amped up to stop the run. So Steve Sarkisian, good play caller. Obviously, he's made his way to Texas and a top.
He was dialing them up back then? Okay,
yeah, so he's dialing up then. I mean, we were after the Norm Chow days then. But I just say that because I never felt like we got physically dominated, at least that year. Now, have I been physically dominated on the defense side of the ball? Yes. I mean, I could name many games, 04, 05, 06, that we were physically dominated. But I will tell you this, in that 07 team, I felt like there was never a game where we felt somebody just continually run on us. Now, our offense continually ran on Penn State that year. I think our offense had 250 yards rushed against Penn State that year. Against Wisconsin, they run the option, right? We saw us physically dominate Ohio State, remember, running the ball to 8 yards. We didn't run the pass, right? So it happens, right? So we were physically strong. I remember going to the NFL and, I was at the Oakland Raiders for a little bit. I had a guy that played against me at Michigan. He said, I'll tell you what, we knew you guys weren't not the best team in the Big Ten, but you guys were jacked. You guys were strong. You were physical. And we were a physical team. Might not be the best team, but we never got pushed around. I felt like we got pushed around up front in this game. It was pretty obvious that they could run the ball 3 or 4 times in a row and probably just win the game.
Yep.
But they didn't do that because offensive corners get impatient.
Like you said, and I know we'll have plenty of ways to continue to break down what we've seen so far for the Illini, but to piggyback off of that, one of I think the big takeaways that fans had is like, all right, transfer portal, let's prioritize. Not that anybody is fast forwarding, wishing away the rest of this season. There's a lot still to play for, and this could be a really fun ride the rest of the way. But is that something that then immediately comes to mind? Is like, as you build this thing up, you got to go attack and get more physicality and strength in the defensive line, the linebackers. Would that be something you'd approach?
I think we got to go in the portal and spend $500,000 to $1 million to get a defensive tackle. That's really, really big. I really do. I think let's just be real, right? I think we also, it all starts in the center of your defense. If you don't have great, I'm not saying T.R. Edwards hasn't played good. I think Dennis Briggs was a phenomenal pickup, but I don't think he's a true nose tackle, right? I mean, I think we have a very athletic defensive line and undersized, but we got mauled a little bit, right? Gabe Akers held his own. Had a good game because he's so strong at the point of attack. Joe Barner played solid. This can still be a great football team. I mean, we talk about 2022 like it was some magical year. It was good. We were 8-5. We can definitely get more than 8 wins this year. Look at the schedule. If you include a bowl game, you could be over 8 wins here, right? You didn't play very good down the stretch in that 2022 season, but we need to go in the portal and because you're not going to just develop a DT overnight. I think Alex Bray's going to be a player. I think Joe Barner is going to be a good player. I think Alec Bryant, if he comes back for another year, could be a good player. I think Gabe comes back, but we're a piece or two away on the D-line depth-wise. And I didn't think would be a piece away on the offensive line, but it doesn't seem like we have an Isaiah Adams-type mauler in there like we had last year or the year prior to really run the football in the interior. So I would love to see that improve as well.
Coming up next, we'll break down the path to 8+ wins, where Illinois definitely should get some wins, and what Jay thinks about some of these toss-ups and their ability to compete against the higher end of their schedule. Before we do that, let's give a shout-out to the people that make this happen.
First, our title sponsor, CEFCU. CEFCU, that's CEFCU.com. Not a bank, better. CEFCU, you need a vehicle loan, a home loan, a business line of credit, a commercial loan. They are your one-stop shop. Currently, commercial car loans for 4.99%. CEFCU, they have been in Peoria for years, and they're coming to town. They're getting a branch office built here in Champaign. A&R Mechanical, ar-mech.com. They have been around for 99 years. Next year will be their 100th year. That's right. They started in 1925 in Champaign County. Based out of Urbana, Illinois, they have been serving Champaign County for over 99 years. Will be 100 years next year. Design, build, maintain. They're also part of building the State Farm Center and revamping the State Farm Center and updating Memorial Stadium, which also turns 100 years here in about 2 or 3 weeks. And other iconic structures as the Demersion athletic facilities and whatnot on campus. Dick Van Dyke Appliance, home of the free 10-year protection plan. Of course, Long Branch Steakhouse. Don't forget the fried pickles. Let's go.
4-1 is the record going into the bye week. What do you think about the path to 8 wins? What would you set the win total at? Let us know. 217-359-2255 on the Max Twin City Recycling text line. We'll get to those. Any questions you have for Jay, send those in. We'll be back. This is The Drive.
Airlig Plumbing Solution. For your kitchen and bath remodels, sump pumps, maintenance plans, and even licensed backflow testing, Airlig has you covered. Your local plumbing contractors for industrial, commercial, and residential jobs can provide plumbing services, repairs, and installs with a quick turnaround by calling or texting 217-722-9499. Send an email with your plumbing issue and contact information to info@airlig.plumbing.com.
Very happy and honored to have Dr. Abraham Kocherl, cardiac electrophysiology, OSF, Heart of Mary in Urbana. What is AFib?
Yeah, so atrial fibrillation is a heart rhythm disorder, and it's actually the most common heart rhythm disorder that needs treatment. So about 6 million Americans have it currently, and it's expected to increase to about 15 million by 2050. So it's a growing problem. There are lots of things that lead to atrial fibrillation, and this includes diseases like diabetes and hypertension, sleep apnea. Other factors that lead to it are an excessive alcohol and tobacco use, being overweight or obese, and being sedentary. Generally it's an older person's disease. Generally, if you have other heart conditions, it's worth looking for, so that there's a condition called heart failure, which commonly is associated with atrial fibrillation. So hopefully, if you have one of those conditions, those patients are being seen by a cardiologist, and that cardiologist is paying attention to the heart rhythm and keeping an eye on things to look for the development of atrial fibrillation.
To learn more, visit osfhealthcare.org.
Do you need some extra cash?
Be a special census field representative and make $18.83 an hour. You'll be working a small area on campus and have some flexibility with this job.
A special census is coming to campus residents around the University of Illinois. Field representatives are needed through November with Urbana's partial special census.
Visit urbanaillinois.us/census jobs.
Make $18.83 an hour. Visit usajobs.gov/jobs and look for the city of Urbana.
So when was the last time you saw a best deal guarantee?
You mean a promise that actually held up?
Right.
That some unknown online entity didn't want you to log in and download a code and then re-verify as you join some club?
Drives you nuts, I know.
And then once you purchase that set of steak knives...
Well, Dick Van Dyke Appliance World is a lot simpler. You find a verified great deal and they beat it. Just show them the deal you saw. A newspaper clipping or the online cart price will do, and then you're good.
At Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, it's one of those instances where you see a best deal guarantee and...
you get the best deal.
This is Dennis Rieken, chairman of Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. Our exclusive 10-year protection plan comes free with most appliance purchases. Whether it's a GE, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, Bosch, or any of our 30 brands, I guarantee we will beat any competitor's deal. Wow!
Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
In an ever-changing real estate market, it is so important to work with experienced agents like Russ and Nick Taylor with the Taylor teams at Taylor Realty Associates. They have the knowledge and expertise to get your home sold for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. Trust the experience and success of Russ and Nick Taylor with the Taylor team at Taylor Realty Associates. Give them a call today at 217-355-0700 or visit them online at taylorboys.com. That's taylorboys.com.
Your number one sports bar and grill is Pia's. Head to 1609 West Springfield Avenue to watch all your favorite sports teams play on the big screen TVs as you enjoy great drink specials and the famous 10-ounce Slugger Burger. With the slot machines, darts, video, golf, and outdoor beer garden, meet your friends at Pia's since 1975. Open mornings at 7 a.m., Sundays at 8. See you at Pia's.
In 1925, Bud and B. Reichard founded a small plumbing business in Urbana. Today, nearly 100 years later, A&R Mechanical is still thriving. A&R Mechanical believes in designing, building, and maintaining, and is one of the largest and most innovative contractors in the Midwest. Their team creates and sustains essential facility systems for several of the university athletic facilities, like the State Farm Center, the Memorial Stadium expansion, the Ubben Basketball Complex, the Smith Football Performance Center, along with the baseball, softball, and Immersion Indoor Golf Facility. Their impact on Champaign-Urbana is legendary. For nearly a century, A&R Mechanical has been a cornerstone of our community. I'm Jay Lehman, former Fighting Illini All-American linebacker. Congratulations to A&R Mechanical on nearly 100 years of dedication, innovation, and community spirit. Design, build, maintain. It's what they've done for nearly 100 years and what they'll continue to do for the next 100 years. A&R Mechanical, celebrating a century of excellence in service. Visit ar-mech.com for more details.
Back on the Drive with Sandpiper, ESPN Radio 93.5. It is the Jay Lehman Hour, breaking down a 21-7 loss for the Illini on the road against the top 10 Penn State team. Certainly not a no-show like Verizon today.
Oh my gosh,
Today.
the Verizon blackout. I don't understand. Like I about 9 o'clock, my phone goes out. Okay, me and my wife are in the same plan. Her phone works fine. My phone has not worked at all. Right, so
Hers has worked fine.
Hers has worked
Really?
fine. I've had to call people using Wi-Fi, like WhatsApp and FaceTime and stuff like that. But it probably means you can't listen to anything in the car, so you listen to us. Back to the good old radio
I
days,
love it,
right?
yeah.
The Jay Lehman
No
Football Hour.
podcast,
Let's
no
go. No
nothing.
podcast.
Yeah.
I found myself just thinking in the car for once, like, wow, I never really think anymore. That's
Hey, we
scary.
should do this more often.
Yeah.
You can call me Salas thinking, smoke Purdue, I'm going to need a case of hopium.
Or I'm going to need a hopium.
Or I'm going to need a case of
yeah,
hopium. Yes.
I think so too. The hopium's usually high. Listen, I still think it's a good football team, and I know we say this every year, but you really have to beat Purdue. I mean, they just fired their offensive coordinator yesterday, Graham Harrell. The air raid experiment in Purdue, although it sounded great with like basketball on grass for Tiller and what Jeff Brom had done, it just did not work out. But here's the moral of the story. They got athletes at the receiver position, but you don't have an offensive line. Nothing works. The same thing we saw against Penn State were some offensive line woes. I don't care if you got Hudson Card, former 4-5-star quarterback. He can't have time to throw the football. He's gotten beat up, especially that Notre Dame game. Wow, I can't believe he got up after that Notre Dame game, the 66-7 drubbing. But Purdue is bad. We got to beat Purdue. So the next game actually is the most important game. Now, they've got Wisconsin coming up. They don't have a bye week coming up. I think we do got to get healthy. Randy from Urbana says, assume a loss at Oregon. You have a good chance for winning 4 of the 6 remaining games. I'm guessing there's 7 remaining games, but maybe you're saying that Oregon is a loss and you win 4 of the last 6 because there's 7 remaining games. Yeah, I mean, obviously Oregon and Michigan are our toughest games, right? I don't think Michigan is that great. They're going to be really physical, but they're not going to right now don't have a threat of throwing the football. They've lost a ton of the guys on defense, although their defensive front is still very, very good. I think Illinois is going to be ready for that with the throwback uniforms, 100-year anniversary. I think Illinois will be back for that. I think Oregon's going to be a tough matchup. But you get into November, you got Minnesota, you got Rutgers, Michigan State, and, of course, Northwestern. Rutgers looks probably the best of those teams and always tough to battle. I mean, Rutgers and even Indiana, both 4-0 and 5-0, respectively. So none of those games are a gimme. We always try to look at on who we can beat and who we can't. I think all those are toss-ups, but I do think we could have a good season.
Northwestern's looking pretty brutal. You would hope that that's a game that don't lose.
I watched a little bit of them against Washington.
Is that 24-5, I think, was the final?
And I watched, it looks like Iowa offensive last year. And also I watched them against Eastern Illinois, and they struggle in the first half against Eastern Illinois. Now, they always improve and they play their best game against us. So Purdue and Northwestern with this new conference realignment, we play them every year, which is actually a great pickup for us. You would think, right, to play. We could have picked up somebody else, right, that we did want to play every year, Iowa and Wisconsin or something. So I think it's a good pickup, but you got to win those games. And we're recruiting against those teams pretty regularly, Purdue and Northwestern. And so in Purdue having the same defensive scheme as us, we recruit similar style defensive players. And so you definitely want to beat Purdue.
Let's go through the schedule as of right now. Let's say Illinois should win, slight lean one way or the other, to Illinois or to the opponent, or tall task, which we thought Penn State would be a tall task, but ultimately maybe slighter to Penn State. All right, Purdue at home.
Yes,
they gotta win.
They should gotta win.
Gotta win. Michigan at home.
I think right now that's more of a toss up than people think. So I'll give a Michigan lean.
Michigan lean. Okay. At Oregon. Tall task. Yeah. Minnesota at home.
We should beat Minnesota. We've got a better quarterback and we've got better athletes on the edge.
Michigan State at home.
Michigan State's kind of an unknown for me. I think they're going to get better throughout the season, but this is a team that lost to Boston College, and it's tough to see them play against Ohio State because Ohio State's going to outman a lot of different guys. But I think they're going to be a solid football team. I'm going to lean Illinois.
So at that point, if you've beaten Purdue, Minnesota, and Michigan State, you have 7 wins going in the final 2.
So you're 7-3. See, I'm a Rutgers lean though.
Towards Rutgers, yep.
I'm a lean to Rutgers and a lean toward Northwestern. I'm a lean for us against Northwestern.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that would put us at
8-4.
8-4, and then you have a chance to go to a bowl game and be 9-4, which would be the best year since 2007. So anyway, I think this is not a bad football team. We're way better than what people expected us to be, and we're competitive. That was a competitive game. It felt like it should have been a lot farther apart than what it was, but I could also make the argument that if we score going into the first half and just sneak it 2 or 3 times in a row and get in from being under center, even in the fourth quarter it could be tied. And you're like, okay, well, you're one play away, something crazy happening, and then you can actually run the ball. You can actually not play from behind and play from a lead a little bit, which we were never able to really do. So I'm excited about the opportunity for this season still.
Matt on the Max Twin City Recycling text line goes the direction that I was thinking. He says, I feel Michigan's the next team we play that will rush us like Penn State. How can we slow down that rush? I am still high on the Hopium, though.
So I will say this. I think on the interior, they're really good. Mason Graham and Jenkins, I think it's Jenkins, they got some giant guys on the interior. I don't think they have the edge rushers at Penn State or the linebackers at Penn State. I do think on defensive backs, Will Johnson, one of the best they have. So I think it's going to be a very similar challenge. And can we stop? I'm hoping that, one, we have a more consistent run game, and number 2, that we get Henry Boyer back and we get some max personnel. I don't even mind bringing Brandon Henderson in at a second tight end if Boyer's not ready, with Tanner Arkin, just to protect. And have McCray in there to block, just to protect, and let's run some 2-man routes. Like I like our chances thrown up to Franklin, who wins a lot of contested catches. I like Bryant. Again, the challenge with the wide receiver is how do we get them touches when we need touches, especially if they're not in the slot. we need more production out of the slot too. We've had Kyle Dixon make some catches, but man, we need some more production out of the slot. You look what Isaiah Williams did in this offense in the slot. We're losing all that production. Now it's gone to other places, but we need some production out of the slot as well.
Another thing about that Michigan matchup, I think, and you've already touched on this, the smash mouth football that they're going to play, they want to play, they have to because their quarterback can't throw the ball whether they're playing Orji or Davis Warren. But if I know we still have a bye week, we still have Purdue, but if we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, there is that parallel between what Penn State can do on the ground and what Michigan will try to do, and certainly they have some talent there in the run game. How would you coach up the linebacker group? Let's say if Jay's parachuting into the linebacker room this week and you're trying to correct what happened at Penn State with Michigan in mind, what would be center of mind for you as far as that goes?
I think first and foremost, it's a mindset of if I can't stop the run, I can't stop anything. So you have to have responsibility for the pass, yes, but one, I got to get lined up. Being the proper alignment. I know when Andy Kotelnicki does some different things where your alignment can get messed up. You can be a gap out of your gap by a half a shade or whatnot. But what I would say is this: the emphasis has to be on stopping the run. Number two is always, and I tell this to young football players. I was just talking to Matt Sinclair, another fellow Illinois linebacker, and trained me a lot how to play linebacker when he was there. And we were talking about this over the weekend. Defeat your one-on-one, meaning if you're a linebacker, you're always going to be accounted for in the box. Learn how to defeat that block. Get off that block and go make a play. Don't be looking to make the tackle before you get off that block. So defeat that guy, and then always attack the line of scrimmage. We're not good enough to be catching guys at 3 or 4 yards deep. We've got to read the play, attack the line of scrimmage, and wrap up. I saw way too many shoulder tackles, arm tackles. Wrap up. I don't care if you get them down. Wrap up, hold on, wait for the cavalry to come and gang tackle them, right? That's what I would do. And I would always say this. When you're playing a team like Michigan that's going to run the football, or like Penn State, so much of it is a mindset of, listen, they're going to get a couple run plays, but if I can keep pounding them and be physical with them throughout the game, maybe they'll start throwing the football. I never thought we got to that point with Penn State. And so I think that was difficult to see. I think our linebackers have to play better.
How do you go about tackling a Nick Singleton? And who was maybe the toughest tackle for you when you were playing at Illinois?
Well, I always liked the bigger guys. J.U. Colcrick for Michigan State was like 265, thick legs, not nearly as fast as Nick Singleton, but he was big. P.J. Hill was big.
P.J. Hill, yeah.
I always struggle with the quick guys. I mean, Brian Calhoun, good player at Wisconsin. Mike Hart was kind of a mix of everybody. Really, really good football player. All-time leading rusher at Michigan. That's something to say. And Mike Hart, I mean, wasn't a burner. Wasn't overly shifty, wasn't overly big, but man, just really good balance, really good vision in the hold. So Mike Hart, I'd have to put up there as one of the toughest.
Was Beanie Wells right after you?
Yeah, I played against Beanie Wells. I thought Beanie Wells was not that good. We beat Beanie Wells there. I never thought he was very good.
I don't think Lon thinks Beanie Wells is very good.
He wasn't that good. He knows the Cardinals. I think Lawrence Maroney and Marion Barber are really good players.
Man, yeah.
So, Lawrence Maroney, on my recruiting visit to Illinois, didn't end up going to Illinois, went to Minnesota. But have known Lawrence since then, and very, very good football player out of St. Louis, Normandy, and just a really good football player, tough to tackle, elite speed. Marion Barber was a guy who would bring it, not really speed, power, but and then when I went into the NFL, I had a chance to play with some Hall of Famers, LaDainian Tomlinson with the Chargers and Adrian Peterson with the Vikings, and certainly not a Hall of Famer, but a very good player in McFadden, Derek McFadden.
Oh yeah.
Who was elite for the Razorbacks. Had some injuries for the Oakland Raiders.
On the cover of the college football NCAA game one year.
Right. So who was that guy that played for the Carolina? D'Angelo
Williams?
Yeah, he played at Memphis and really good back. So I've played against some really good backs in my life and played with some of them. And don't forget about Pierre Thomas. I think Pierre Thomas, one of the best backs, totally underrated. And Rashard Mendenhall too. So I've had a chance to play against them. I was better against the bigger backs, worse against the smaller backs. Let's just say that.
I'm glad you mentioned the recruiting visit with Maroney, not to go in on that, but there's going to be a lot of a recruiting emphasis during bye week for Brett Bielema and his staff. And if I'm sitting here speculating on it, 4-1, still ranked 24th in the country, belonged on the national stage. Yes, Penn State out physical to you. Yes, the better team won, and that was clear. But you're hanging. It's a lot different of a quote unquote vibes if it's 35-7.
I mean, last year weren't we just getting beat? We had just gotten beat by, I believe, Nebraska and Purdue back to back.
That's true.
At the end of September, right? And we were 2-3. I mean, that's bad bowl right there, right? And so now you're 4-1. It's totally different. And the conversations are different. But I think you have a conversation of like, hey, listen, we actually need you. We're a good team, and you have a chance to play.
Right. True.
We're a good team, and you have a chance to play. How many times do you have a good team that you don't have a chance to play right away unless you're special and elite and a 17-year-old receiver from Alabama who can do a bunch of crazy stuff, right? What did he put on his eye black? Kill everybody or something?
Kill everybody.
That's
yeah.
sure.
And then he did a little Mike Vick Instagram post. Mike Vick with a dog.
I'm not sure. There was a. I mean, I was watching Game Day, and the internet is undefeated because I saw a meme. There was a sign with Donald Trump at Alabama that says they're eating dogs out here. They're eating dogs. I just thought that was hilarious. I mean,
he was up in the box
he was there, but I mean, just the whole eating cats in Ohio, just the whole eating dogs. That was hilarious. That sign, it was one of the top 5 signs I've ever seen at College Game Day. But they're eating dogs out here because obviously Alabama was playing Georgia.
They ate them for a while, but the dogs came back.
Yeah, and Paul Feinbaum said, that was the best SEC game we've seen in 40 years of covering. It was a great game. I was not watching most of it. I had some split screen going because I was watching, obviously, Illinois, Penn State. But you go back to your question on what is the message? The message is, hey, we're building something, but we need help, right? We were unable to get great defensive tackle transfers for years because we had good defensive tackles. I think we have a chance with Dennis Briggs only have 1 year eligibility. Go get a great defensive tackle in the portal. Go recruit the guys you want to develop. Go recruit the offensive linemen you want to develop. It's going to be hard to get a good running back in the portal because we got running backs, right? But if Pat Bryant's leaving, hey, and Zachary Franklin's leaving, hey, we have some players, Malik Elzy, Ashton Hollins, I think are good football players, but you can see the offense that's there. I think that's what you try to sell to people.
Had another text on that note. I think it should be noted that NBC now really promotes and pushes Saturday Night Football just like they do for Sunday Night Football. And for us, Illinois Nation and Coach B to be on the national stage, big deal. And again, I felt like that was an eye test passing performance. It wasn't good enough to win.
Sure.
But you belonged on that stage, and I think that counts for something.
You certainly weren't outclassed altogether. You were overpowered.
Yeah,
right. They're a better program. They're a top 10 program, and that's the difference between a top 25 and top 10 program. Right there. You saw it on the line. And you start getting better and better winning games. You get to play on prime time on Fox against Nebraska, prime time on NBC. You lose and you play Purdue, you're at 2:30 start on Peacock or somewhere. I don't know where it's Big Ten Network or what, but it's probably one of those, right? So it's that's
I think
how
it's
it
FS1.
is. FS1. Okay, so we're not doing horrible,
Get
right?
more respect.
Yeah, well, we're
not
ranked.
the 11 a.m. BTN game anymore.
Done a handful of those in my life. But
no disrespect to BTN.
No. We have some good questions here. Matt from Sydney says, "Is there other ways to get Fagan the ball?" I know he's one of our best players. During the break, I said I wouldn't be surprised to see kind of like Tyler Warren ran a package for Penn State. Could they run a Wildcat for Caden Fagan? At Atwood Hammond, he ran was a Wildcat quarterback basically. Could you put Aiden Lawfrey in there and flex, Luke out, leave him on there, and just say, hey, in short yardage, can we get in the ball? I'd love to see him used at a tight end position when we're low on tight ends at kind of that H position. Tanner Arkin's a good football player, but we've been low on tight ends. Can Caden Fagan be an inline tight end? And I know he's he is your best running back, so you don't want to take him off of that. Can he handle that? I mean, he can handle being on the kickoff team. I know that. He's on the kickoff team making plays. So all those things, I would say, Matt from Sydney, you're right. Another Randy else said, I'm not sure we should have dropped that far, maybe around 20th. I understand, but there's teams that win behind you, Randy, that have to go up. And so somebody has to go down. I think if you lose in overtime or last second play, you go down to 20th, you lose by 2 touchdowns to somebody who hasn't won the game. People say, oh, they beat the spread, but still, they should still be ranked, but not where they were.
Yeah, that's fair. If you got a question for Jay, we've had a lot of good texts on the Max Twin City Recycling text line, 217-359-2255. Before we wrap things up and take this final break with Jay, let's hit him with the sponsors, Jay.
Well, I love the text line. These guys obviously don't use Verizon because their texts
Apparently
are actually
not,
working,
yeah.
right? But let's talk about a bank that works. Actually, not a bank better. It's CEFCU.com. Not a bank better. CEFCU is perfect for home, auto, and commercial loans and lines of credit. CEFCU.com. They're building a location here in Champaign. A&R Mechanical. For over 100 years, 99 years, A&R Mechanical has been the gold standard for mechanical systems around design, build, and maintain. AR-MECH.com. They're turning 100 in 2025. They were started in 1925 by B. and Bud Reichard. In 1925, they started and has served Urbana, Champaign, and all of Champaign County since then. That's pretty hard to do for any kind of mechanical company. ar-mech.com. Design, build, maintain. Dick Van Dyke Appliance World and Long Branch Steakhouse. Don't forget the fried mushrooms and fried pickles.
A 309 says Verizon's back up and running, so we'll see if Jay's phone is clicked back into play.
Not for me, but it's coming.
Still SOS, but we got some positive momentum, hopefully, for all Verizon customers. Well, they're not sponsored, by the way, so we can dog them all we want. When we come back, we will finish up this hour. Got a few more questions for Jay as we look ahead. I want to ask him, I know we do it every year, but by week, kind of what the focus would be and what he thinks Illinois should try to get out of this opportunity to get healthy and get better. We'll do that next. This is The Drive.
At ABC Heating and Air, it's our promise to help you always be comfortable. Do you need rescued because you're burning hot? Do you need rescued because your air is shot? Call ABC Heating and Air at 352-5400 and let us rescue you from the heat. ABC Heating and Air, 352-5400. Can't you see you need to call me at ABC? Call ABC Heating and Air. That's ABC Heating and Air, 352-5400.
As Tapman's Towing celebrates 50 years of serving Central Illinois, we're always seeking good people to serve our great customers. Our team of expert tow professionals would like to interview others with CDLs, previous tow experience, or a strong interest in serving others. If you enjoy serving people, love working in the outdoors, and looking for a career, not just a job, we should talk soon. Do you have a strong desire but lack the experience? We should still talk. Visit our career page at tapmanstowing.com.
Pia's has Karaoke Fridays the second and fourth Friday of the month after 9 p.m. Get into your weekend with $5 Crown Royal drinks plus $4 Fireball Friday shots. Tequila Tuesdays go south of the border with drink specials. And from 11 to 2, get lunch with a big taco for only $2.75. Wednesdays are wild with Mason jar drinks, and it's country night. Happy Thursday with $5 Jack drinks and $4 Happy Dad and Happy Thursday seltzers. Every day is a good day at Pia's.
It's a terrifying sight. It keeps you up at night. It's that pile of junk.
Don't let junk devour your space. Call 2 Men and a Junk Truck. Their brave team will eliminate that pile and haul it away. From old furniture to yard waste, they'll make it vanish. Don't be scared. Call 2 Men and a Junk Truck. Schedule your junk removal today. 2 Men and a Junk Truck, making your space safer, one junk pile at a time. 2menandajuncktruck.com.
Hi, Ellen Hook here, owner of your local Ashley. I have a big announcement. The Champaign Ashley store is getting a fresh new look, and you're invited to the remodel sale. Right now, save up to 65% off furniture and accessories throughout the store, with hundreds of items in stock and ready to take home today. But that's not all. Join us outside under the carport every weekend in September and October for extra savings on select furniture. It's all happening at your local Ashley in Champaign at 602 West Anthony Drive. Hurry into Ashley because these deals won't last long.
At Pards in Urbana, the boots just keep on coming. They're known for their huge collection of men's cowboy boots, women's cowgirl boots, kids' boots, and even shoes. If you're searching for top footwear brands, look no further than Pards. They carry a wide variety, including Ariat, Dan Post, Smoky Mountain, Roper, Double H, and more. And if socks or accessories are what you need, they've got all your high-quality essentials. Since 1968, Pards has been serving their customers with high-quality merchandise. And if you haven't been to Pards in a while, a lot has changed. Go check them out just off University Avenue in Urbana.
Golden Nugget Casino is your winning destination for fun and fortune. Since our grand opening, we paid out over $23 million in jackpots to more than 10,000 winners. In July, more than 800 guests won jackpots totaling over $2 million. Golden Nugget Casino, the best place to win. Located just off I-74 at the Illinois-Indiana border in Danville. Not valid for any participant of the Illinois Gaming Board statewide voluntary self-exclusion program. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Finishing up the Jay Lehman Hour here on The Drive with Tay and Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. All right, Jay, a bye week. What would you want to get out of that if you're a player in that locker room, and what do you think the coaching staff will really be focused on?
Well, number one, I think we're really excited that we're healthy for the most part. How many times have we had a key injury in the first training camp or September. It's like, man, it really hurts us. And we're not that deep at different things. But I think you're going to have to do a self-assessment and say, okay, where have we really struggled? I like what Steve Fiskus says in the text line. Says, I'm late to the broadcast today, but how do you stop the run when the defensive box can't fit all the gaps? We were a light 5-man box with 2 high safeties most of the game. Henry didn't go to a 5-man front until late into the fourth quarter. Hey, Steve, one, I'm going to say thanks for really watching the game in depth, and you're exactly right. But number 2, I'll say that's the kind of stuff you're going to look at in the bye week and say, okay, we stopped big plays in the pass, but man, we got to get heavier in the box. Do we have guys that we think they can cover man-to-man? And hold up against the Drew Aller and Penn State type receivers. So I think you're going to self-scout and you're going to say, this is what we can do better. Hey, the biggest thing is, how do we get an offensive line combo that works? That's the biggest, that's numero uno. That's numero uno to run the football. How do we get an offensive line combo? I think special teams has been solid. I think defensively, we've got to create enough negative plays when people run the ball or no gain plays. How do we do that? So Steve, to your point. So those are things you're working on. And I think you're also going to work on your development of young football players and let them say, okay, tell them scout team, call them the developmental guys. How do we get these guys developed and ready to play so that we can have some more depth down the road? Now, there is 2 bye weeks. We actually used to run 12 straight games to be done before the week of Thanksgiving. We had no bye week in 2006, which is crazy. We didn't even play on Thanksgiving of 2006. And I think Ohio State had something like 51 days from their last game until like their bowl game, which is just insane. Jeez. When I played the national championship, it doesn't make any sense. That won't be the case, obviously, with Big Ten championships and the playoff and bowl games this year. But and we play the week of Thanksgiving as well. So anyway, that's what you're focused on. Things you got to work on. You do a self scout and a self analysis. But I feel really good, like I said, about being 4-1 and being healthy. This is a big thing.
Randy on the Max Twin City Recycling text line wants to know if you were impressed with Drew Aller, the Penn State quarterback.
I mean, Aller, I think, has 37-3 on touchdown to interception ratio in his career, which is pretty impressive. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He certainly had all the time in the world to be great. And I thought he played average. He did what they needed to do. The star of that show was the running backs. That we took away the pass. We didn't stop the running backs. Aller's decent. I never think he's going to be the best quarterback in like the Big Ten or just blow you away. But I do think he's a serviceable guy and definitely above average for the Big Ten Conference.
Did Michigan get the old Rose Bowl flag on the offsides on the onside kick? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw, and it sounded like no, it wasn't Dean Blandino. It was who's the guy who also does it? Gosh, the TV analyst guy. He does it all the time. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the older guy who does it. If you can hit me on the text line with that, I'd appreciate it. But he was saying when they went to the TV analysis and said,
is it Pereira?
Yeah, Mike Pereira. Thank you.
Yeah, my bad.
Mike Pereira said, I don't think it was offside. So you had the TV guys disagreeing with the on-field guys, and it did seem like a Rose Bowl flag. Kind of like, okay, got to get this flag out here. My thing is this, unless it's a blatant offsides in that call, like, just let it go. Like it just didn't seem like it was blatant. Now, was his head across that line? Maybe. I don't know. But Minnesota's always that team that they're always kind of finish strong late and kind of make the game look closer than it really is. They didn't play great most of that game.
Right.
They got shellacked. Kind of like we got shellacked a little bit up front. They got shellacked a little bit, but it was more distance, and they closed out that game better than we closed out our game. But I thought for sure that was a bad call for sure.
Did you happen to see Friday night the ending of the Miami Va-Tech game?
So I went to bed and Va-Tech was up, was it 24-10 or something crazy? I was like, okay. And then the ending of that game, which they had the controversial catch, right?
Yep.
Then they
called
ruled
it a catch on the field.
And then it wasn't a catch.
And then they said it wasn't. And I thought it was crazy that they, through replay, determined it was enough evidence to overturn the call. It seemed like an impossible task. Well, what do you think about having to make a call on the field? I get why they do it, but when you don't really know what to do, then maybe we shouldn't leave
because
that.
It makes it tougher to overturn.
Right.
And that's kind of what I felt with the Nebraska situation last week when Torrey Cox makes the pick and they call a pick on the field and then they change it to touchdown on the field. So then you immediately think like, okay, well, there's a 2/3 chance it's probably going to stand.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think they try to get it right as most they can. I think there needs to be more clarity on what a catch is and what isn't. I mean, ever since the Bears and Megatron, issue.
Oh, my goodness.
Where that got overturned.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's been on the spotlight where he caught, rolled it, and then dropped the football as he got up. I mean, it was just kind of hilarious that was not a touchdown.
We take it.
So anyway, I think there needs to be more clarity up. For the most part, they try to get it right.
No doubt.
Big Def said Mike Pereira as well. I don't know if you got it from him or what. He texted in and said Mike Pereira. You guys
It finally hit me that it was Mike Pereira. There are so many of those guys, and admittedly, I always get annoyed. Usually, I'm like pre-mad when those guys show up on the TV because a lot of them like to agree with the call on the field. Like the refs, they're kind of putting on for them and trying to make it sound like they're doing. Not to say that they don't do a good job, but I don't know. I don't always love when Terry McCauley, when Mike Ferreira, when those guys come on.
Terry, I believe, was wrong. Whoever was doing the Penn State game.
Terry was doing the Illinois Penn State.
And he was wrong on like the heckle when he went outside, on the punt. They were trying to see if he didn't get on bounds. And he clearly tried to get in bounds and clearly got pushed. He's like, no, he was not on bounds for 20 yards. I was like, that was just bad analysis. That was trying to cover yourself with a bad analysis. Mark says, did Luke look beat? I don't think he looked beat. I think that he got beat up in the fourth quarter and got hit a lot. I don't think Luke gave up or got beat. I think we need to protect him better. He did hold on to the ball too long at times. He's trying to make something happen. He needs a third down, so he doesn't want to throw the football away, so he takes a sack. It's hard, right? It's a hard game.
I think he's looked tough this year for the most part.
I don't think mentally, I think he's a leader. I think he's there. He got beat up this game. I think they had 6 or 7 sacks, most in the fourth quarter. But, man, you take hits. He also took a shot while scrambling by Kobe Carter or whatever is the number 41 for Penn State, just absolutely annihilated him on a scramble. And that's the kind of linebacker I'm looking for.
That's like a broken play, right?
It was a broken play, and he just got shellacked. And I was like, man, I hope he gets up. It had a Bruce Sternum written all over it.
That's he should be in the cold tub, I think, for a couple days after that. And you can do that during a bye week. There's never enough time, Jay, but we appreciate yours. Sponsors that make it happen because we got to give them a lot of praise for that.
Yep, SEFQ.com. They're our title sponsor, guys. Vehicle loans, auto loans, home loans, not a bank, better. SEFQ, A&R McKendall, AR-MECH.com. Design, build, maintain. Guys, they made a lot of iconic structures here in Champaign-Urbana, including the State Farm Center. They've helped develop the Memorial Stadium Edition, the Smith Center, where the football players practice. They've done so much. Design, build, maintain. A&R Mechanical turned 100 years in 2025. Dick Van Dyke Appliance World and Long Branch Steakhouse.
You're the man, Jay. We appreciate it.
Yep. Too bad Lon didn't make it. All right.
We'll be back. Maybe Lon will. Maybe he won't. If not, it's Kyle and I, and we got some things to discuss. Some more thoughts on Illinois. The Bears get a win. Hey. And some games tonight, including some playoff baseball that's coming up as well. So we'll fill you in on all that. We'll be back. This is The Drive.
So when was the last time you saw a best deal guarantee?
You mean a promise that actually held up?
Right.
That some unknown online entity didn't want you to log in and download a code and then re-verify as you join some club.
Drives you nuts, I know.
And then once you purchase that set of steak knives...
Well, Dick Van Dyke Appliance World is a lot simpler. You find a verified great deal and they beat it. Just show them the deal you saw. A newspaper clipping or the online cart price will do, and then you're good.
At Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, it's one of those instances where you see a best deal guarantee and...
you get the best deal.
This is Dennis Rieken, chairman of Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. Our exclusive 10-year protection plan comes free with most appliance purchases. Whether it's a GE, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, Bosch, or any of our 30 brands, I guarantee we will beat any competitor's deal. Wow!
Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
Mark your calendars now for America Recycles Day, November 2nd. Come to the Anita Purvis Nature Center between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and check out all the free activities. Learn about all the different and fun things you can do with recycled glass. See glass blowing demonstrations from a local artist. Learn how you can go green and recycle items in your world. Keep up to date on America Recycles Day, November 2nd by checking out the posts on social media or visit urbanaparks.org. Urbana Park District, you belong here.
From computer systems to brakes and tires too, at PDR, fixing cars is what they do. Remember, when you turn the key and the car won't run, call 367-9481 or use their dedicated text-only line at 383-0619. Additional information including repair quotes and online scheduling requests available from the website at pdrauto.com. Remember, they are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
At Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery, we're flooring people with amazing service, great design advice, and unbeatable selection and the best prices in town. It's the perfect time to update your home with waterproof flooring, carpet, hardwood, tile, and more. Then complete your rooms by shopping our incredible selection of furniture and accessories. We also offer great financing options. Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery. We're flooring people.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Hey, where are you headed?
To Kelsey Furniture in Tuscola.
What do they have there?
What don't they have there? Living room furniture, benches, chests, love seats, sectionals, tables, bedroom sets, hutches, nightstands, end tables, cabinets, mirrors, stools, clocks, lamps, pillows, rugs, desks, media consoles, patio furniture, Tempur-Pedic mattresses, and more.
So, everything.
Yeah, probably could have just said that.
Kelsey Furniture, quality for less.
Ow! A spring just hit me.
Mom, the couch is broken again.
It's about time we get rid of that clunky couch and look into buying a new one.
What about Two Men in a Junk Truck? Their professional moving team does a great job assisting with downsizing, home renovations, and clearing out old items you need hauled away.
Wow, it sounds like it'll make much more space in this house once the couch is hauled away.
I just pulled it up on my phone. You can schedule an appointment online at twomeninajuncktruck.com.
Sticky nights and stuffy rooms make it hard to enjoy your home during the summertime? Call Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing to make sure your air conditioning is working at its peak performance. Tune up your AC by joining the maintenance program and get all the perks it has to offer. Call Dogtown to come out for a no-cost quote to upgrade your system today with a Lennox high-efficiency system that will be sure to save you money on your energy bills and let you relax comfortably. Call 217-841-4728 or visit dogtownheatingandair.com. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend.
You have money laying all around your house. You just don't know it. And no, I don't mean selling your great-grandma's good china. I mean all the old metal items you don't want to use or get rid of. Don't pay someone to haul it away. Bring it into Max Twin City Recycling and get paid to have it taken off your hands. They love new customers and are more than willing to walk you through their process step by step. Come check them out at 2808 North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana.
Starting it over is what we do at Max Twin City Recycling.
Stephanie Pratt, Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group, the realtor that rocks, supports local law enforcement with Stevie J Broadcasting as we party with a purpose on Friday, October 4th at City Center. With live and silent auction packages to bid on, food and rock and music, text in WARRANT to try to win free passes as we support the mental health of our first responders in crisis with assistance from the 1078 Foundation. Our studio text line is 217-359-2255.
Warren, coming to City Center on October 4th. Come on out and kick off your weekend by attending the Back the Badge Fest, presented by Grit and Grace Therapy on Friday, October 4th. Let's come together and support this fundraiser as it'll benefit the 1078 Foundation and the mental health of our first responders with Anchor Point. Tickets are live now. $25 for general admission or $45 to be in the party pit. To purchase your tickets, visit citycenterchampaign.com. Doors open at 6 p.m. and the show starts at 8.
Take charge of the years ahead with a smart, sound investment strategy and business succession plan. Busey Bank's business and wealth management experts help you envision your best future with powerful insights and proven strategies. Building business and growing wealth since 1868, Busey Bank, proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
It is The Drive with Sandpiper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Great stuff from Jay Lehman, as always. Appreciate his time. Appreciate the great sponsors that make that happen. Wade asked on the Max Twin City Recycling text line, how was the first day of basketball practice? Yes, Brad Underwood and company kicked off their fall practice today, their lead up to the season. They'll have Big Ten Media Day coming up on Thursday. Kylan Boswell and Ty Rogers will be the player representation for the men's side. Women's side on Wednesday, Shauna Green and company will talk to the media up there in Chicago as well. So basketball coming, but number one, I was not at basketball practice today, so can't tell you how it went. There were some highlights, or not even highlights. I think they're just pictures posted on Twitter, but we'll get more and a lot of insight coming up this week, and we'll be able to share some audio with you from Big Ten Media Days later in the week. In the meantime, we are going to talk some baseball at some point. There was a wild Game 1, a doubleheader going on between the Braves and the Mets for a play-in into the wild card, and now you got the Diamondbacks really sweating it out, pulling hard for the Mets because the Mets won a wild one there in Game 1. We'll talk more about that here coming up shortly, but before we do that, let's get Kyle and I's thoughts on this Penn State Illini game. Kind of the main thing for me, Kyle, is just I know that it was disappointing the way it played out, and to have that bad snap by Kreutz was a huge game-changing play. I can only imagine if Illinois is up 14-7 going into the locker room, and it's hard not to go there. It's hard not to be discouraged by the fact they did get royally punched in the face with Penn State's running game against your front seven. And I do worry about Michigan doing something similar. I do worry about Rutgers maybe down the road doing something similar. But I am just thoroughly happy and impressed with what Brett Bielema's done through 5 games. To have them at 24th in the country, not to play like the whole moral victories game, but they hung in there on national television on NBC, and it was a game. It wasn't one of those where it could have easily set up, Brett Bielema pokes the wideout, and Illinois walks into what looked like just a tremendously electric environment, and it's 28-3 at half or 35-0. We've seen those days for Illinois football. They are hopefully long gone, and Brett has been able to make this a competitive team. It just, as Jay said, it looks like a well-coached team. There's some things that I'm encouraged about. Yes, there are some real flaws, and I hope they don't lead into games that Illinois should win and are the reason you don't win. But as of right now, 4-1, 24th in the country, I'm impressed, and I'm giving my props to Coach Bielema and company for having this team in that spot.
Totally agree on all that. To be 4-1 right now is not at all where I expected to be heading into this bye week. And like you said, I think Illinois competed hard in that game and put a respectable performance on the field in a really tough environment. I mean, that environment looked unbelievable on TV. The whiteout energy, give them credit, they did bring it. I think Bielema found out what it was, but
he knew what it was.
I know. I know. I probably shouldn't have said that because, that whole thing got blown out of proportion anyway. But the environment was great, and Illinois, I mean, even just from like the national perspective of, I know that ultimately doesn't matter a whole lot right now, but you stay ranked, which I think you deserve to. For a bunch of the people nationally that are tuned into that Bama-Georgia game, they're like, let's see what's going on. Oh, it's a 7-point game in Happy Valley. Illinois is holding their own there in the fourth quarter. And I thought Illinois, if you score that touchdown at the end of the first half, I think this game could have gone a lot differently. You had chances, and Penn State gave you a handful of chances. I think that's what you leave that game in the moment frustrated about how, what if one drive, what if that 4th and 1, you didn't false start on that 4th and 1. It was a perfect play call. You get into Penn State territory. Maybe you go down and score there. If you score at the end of the half, I think Illinois had chances to really make this a interesting game. But ultimately, I think to be 4-1 right now and to go on that field against Penn State and put a very respectable performance on the field and give yourself a chance to win. I think that's the other thing that Brett Bielema has proven beyond doubt at this point across really all 4 seasons he's been here is Illinois is very, very rarely going to be out of a game. You're very rarely going to see an Illinois team that's unprepared to play regardless of who the opponent is and just get blown off the field, which is something that we were quite used to for a long time before Brett Bielema showed up, and I think Saturday night was another indication of that. So I think it's a good spot to be. Illinois has all kinds of goals in front of them now, still being 4-1 with that Purdue game, which, man, you guys were talking about it like you need that. You need to win that game, and you should do it pretty handily. But all of a sudden, you get to 5-1, and you got 2 more big ones coming up in October. This is going to be a fun season. I think Saturday just reinforced that for me. It didn't change anything about how I felt where this team is, while at the same time realizing that there's a lot to improve. This bye week comes at a good time because you got to figure out how to slow the run down. I know that might be the best rushing team you're going to face, but there's some things that if Illinois can just improve a little bit at, I think this is still an 8 or 9 win team.
No, yeah, I echo all of that for sure. Kansas, I know you go back to that game. Certainly the win against them doesn't look quite as good, and it's one where we said it right after it happened. If they ultimately ran Devin Neal more, that could have been a different result. And the success they had on the ground, and that one certainly was concerning.
I did find myself saying during that game, like, hey, Kotelnicki, just run it 15 times in a row. I think you'd probably score fairly easily.
You could have put the dagger in the heart there. You would think ultimately for Penn State if they ran it like that, and they were just pummeling Illinois and even rubbing it in a little bit with obviously the Tyler Warren Wildcat. Although I think they only went that a couple of times, but ultimately you could tell the physical difference, the athleticism difference at times, especially front seven against Penn State's rushing attack. But hopefully you won't see something quite at that level. Michigan's going to pose a problem with the way they can run it. And it's funny, Donovan Edwards, who you'll find on the cover of the college football game, isn't even their best running back right now. Is it Mullins or Mullings?
Yeah, it's Mullings.
Mullings.
I can't remember his first name. But yeah, he had a couple 60-yard runs against USC. I don't know what they did this weekend. But yeah, in terms of talent along the lines of scrimmage, you probably will see that one more time with Michigan. So I think that's a good, this is kind of a good wake-up call just for both those units for Illinois, the offensive and defensive lines, to say, hey, we got a bye week now. We got a Purdue team who is awful in the trenches, a team that you should be able to dominate. 2 weeks from now, you're going to see a similar caliber of opponent in those matchups, and I think it's an opportunity for Illinois to improve because you're going to need to be a lot better to beat Michigan. That's one thing coming out of this game that I know we've been talking about, especially Lon, like, hey, I think you have a good chance to win this Michigan game. You probably don't if you play like that along the lines of scrimmage. So that's something 2 weeks from now you really need to improve on.
No doubt. I mean, you don't want to see another game. I know Jay hit on it with the difference in edge rusher for Penn State versus Michigan. I mean, edge to Penn State as far as that goes, but you can get blown up on the middle of that line. It can definitely throw off your passing attack. I don't know that Luke will go down. You certainly wouldn't hope not. 7 times again against Michigan, another time this season, no matter who you're playing. Credit to Penn State for presenting those problems, but yes, like Michigan could wreck your game if they can run against what looks to be a vulnerable front seven for Illinois and then gets after a passing attack and doesn't allow a lot on the ground for Illinois, which is an issue going into this bye week. Is how do you get the run game to be more productive, more consistently productive, and how do you, especially with the interior of the offensive line, protect Luke better and just have that play be more physical and more effective than what it's been to this point. It's interesting, Kyle, and we got a lot of time to break down the Purdue matchup because of this bye week, but for a week, you're going to change to where Illinois has been playing this underdog role here with Penn State, with Nebraska, even with Kansas. It's just kind of like, and even just kind of factoring in preseason expectations. I feel like going forward, preseason is out the window. Number one, because you're almost to the win total that a lot of people thought you would have, 5 or 6 wins. Now, it could be tough, especially to get to that 6-win mark, because even if you beat Purdue, then you're facing Michigan, then you're going on the road at Oregon. It won't be till November, where then you're hosting Minnesota. But I feel like now how Illinois handles, you're pretty good. Purdue stinks. Can you handle that? How do you make sure that you get up for that game and are as well prepared as you need to be and execute when you have advantages that should play out? And obviously going forward, like when it's Illinois, Minnesota, and it's a toss-up, and going into the year, we would be like, you could win or you could lose. Like, you should win, you would think, at home against that team, against Michigan State. How they push forward and how we expect this team to play going forward against a new bar will be interesting, because in my opinion, I think now we're going to formulate our opinion on what we think this team is up to this bye week and forward versus what we thought going into the year.
That Purdue game is extremely important without really – it's not going to look that way leading up to that matchup, because I don't know what that spread's going to be. I'd imagine Illinois is a pretty substantial favorite in that game, and I think overarching narrative heading into that game is going to be Illinois should not only win this game, but should comfortably win this game. But it's so important that they actually do that. And like you said, if all of a sudden you come back from this bye week after these first 5 games where I think everybody has to be feeling great about where this team is at, and I think you project forward, and you guys talked about that, like 8 or 9 wins still seems very much on the table, if not like what should happen for this Illinois team when you look at this schedule. But if you all of a sudden turn around and a Purdue team that has looked like statistically, I was looking at some of their numbers today, they're the worst team in the Power Four. Like, they are the worst football team among the Power Four conferences. They just fired their offensive coordinator. Like, if you either play really poorly or just flat out lose that game, it totally changes the season. It totally changes all of the – I'm not saying it wipes away your wins against Kansas and Nebraska, but it just totally changes the good feelings, the good vibes, all the buy-in around this. And you'll still have that for Michigan, those Oregon games, but you can't lose to this Purdue team. For what this season can be, for how you've looked, for how Purdue looks, where Purdue is, and just how much Purdue has dominated you despite being a similar caliber of program. Feels like those two programs are going in opposite directions now. You just can't even flirt with losing that game at home. You have to take care of business. You do that, you get over that little hurdle. All of a sudden, you're 5-1 with some big games coming up, and we can start to dream again, and you can start to really feel confident. But you just can't slip up in that game under any circumstance. It's really important that Illinois takes care of business against Purdue.
Not to oversimplify it, and look, I mean, Illinois should win that game. I don't know what the spread would be as of today. I could guess 10.5, 10. Is that too much? 7.5?
No,
definitely more than a touchdown.
Much. I don't think
more
it's
than
too
that.
much.
14.
I think it's double digits minimum.
Yeah,
based on how these two teams have looked. Now, I mean, I don't think Purdue's done anything well this year.
Right.
I don't think they've done anything well. Now you're going through a coordinator change mid-season, and they play this week. It's not like they got a bye week to figure things out. They go to Wisconsin, I think. I'd be shocked if it didn't open double digits, unless Purdue all of a sudden has a brand new offense this weekend.
I wish someone could tell me what that line would be. I know that ESPN, their analytics right now give Illinois an 88.3% chance to win that game.
That's pretty crazy.
That's pretty high. I would say this, not to like oversimplify, but to me, losing, not to make this down to like if things go terribly wrong rabbit hole, but if you lose Purdue, you cancels out the Nebraska win.
Yeah.
Like those then even out, or as awesome as the Nebraska win was, that would be how awful it would be to lose to Purdue. And then you have the close loss at Penn State, and you'd have a Kansas team that you beat that they've lost 4 in a row now.
Yeah, they look like a 4-win team max now. So
Yeah,
that's almost like one you should have gotten at home.
Yep.
More than this huge win at this point.
Right. So that game is must win. To have the season that you can have now that the table is set to go on a run to 8 wins, maybe more, and really to further this momentum that you've been able to build. I think in terms of specifics, I am discouraged that the defensive line is as vulnerable as it looks. The linebacker play needs certainly to be better. The offensive line, I think Jay made a really good point. Like the lack of development for your in-house guys is disappointing. And certainly we're not going to talk about staff changes or anything like that. But, I mean, it needs to happen. You need to see that over the course of the rest of the season. Otherwise, you need to evaluate, have we recruited well enough at that position, and are we developing well enough? And if the answer is no to both, then what changes need to be made to have that be different? Because if you're talking about position groups and Brett Bielema football, usually very shortly, if not right off the top, you're going to offensive line, and it's not a situation that's ideal right now.
I wouldn't mind seeing a personnel change there against Purdue. Just try something different. And they've kind of done a little bit of a rotation there where I think you saw a little bit of Wigington and Whiteneck come in against Penn State, but I wouldn't mind seeing like a Brandon Henderson get a start at guard against Purdue just to see if you can spark, because it just feels like outside of late against Nebraska, where they did deserve a lot of credit because they They ran the ball extremely well on those last couple drives. And I guess that last drive against Kansas, but it's not good enough from that interior group. And you need to be able to run the ball. You have to be able to. It felt like Penn State was blowing everything up. You had a couple long runs. Caden Fagan he had like a 35-yard run, and he had to make a guy miss 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage to even get that 35 yards. It's like, and I know Penn State is really, really talented, and maybe Michigan's the only other team you're going to see with that much talent on the interior of the defense, but you just got to do something different to try and spark this run game to me. And maybe that won't make a difference. There's a reason that those guys are your starters, I'm sure, but yeah, that's been the most disappointing, because I really did think coming into this season that it was going to be more of what we're used to from a Brett Bielema team in terms of running the ball with the running backs you have with Fagan and his power, and they just got dominated against Penn State. I mean, just every run, you had 3 Penn State guys in the backfield.
Yep.
And you can't. I thought Caden Fagan actually played fantastic based on the circumstances he was running behind.
Yeah, right. 5 yards of carry against that front is good. Certainly, you wanted to be able to give it to him more and just have more protection in front of him. I mean, how good could this offense be if you could actually run the football with what Luke is doing with Zakari and Bryant,
and it'll make
play
life
action
so
game
much easier on Luke too. And for as good as he's looked, it gets even easier. You hit a couple more deep shots to Pat Bryant if you can just be a threat in the run game.
Defensively, I still have a pretty good amount of confidence in the secondary, which sounds kind of crazy to say based on what we were talking about going into the year. And the front is what it is. I think Dylan Rosiak is a solid linebacker. Does have some limitations, certainly. I think he'll play better than he did against Penn State, but that's got to come to fruition against, obviously, some of your taller tasks here. Michigan won't be that far down the road. Oregon, and you'll have some physical football teams. Minnesota will want to run the ball. Rutgers. So there's going to be a lot on his shoulders because you don't have much depth, it seems, at linebacker, enough up front on the defensive line. That's disappointing. I would say defensive backfield. One side note here: is anybody else like yelling at the TV a little bit when Terrence Brooks gets the DPI? Like, what is
turn your head around?
The return on investment there is terrible. How much is that dude getting in NIL, and how? And I don't want to play that game too much. But look, dudes are getting paid, and he was supposed to be like, hey, come in and be our number one corner, and it's like, oh, well, he's not consistent enough, and oh, well, he's in the game, and now he's getting a big pass interference. Like, that is really disappointing. I know on the whole you're getting good play from that secondary, but the fact that he has not been one of the reasons why, and then gets to play like that's pretty frustrating.
Yeah, and it is frustrating, but at the same time, it's like, how much were we talking about this offseason, how Terrence Brooks changed the whole feeling around the secondary? He has pretty much been a non-factor. I know he's played more recently, but has he played great? I think you've started to see that it wasn't just like hey, this guy, a little bit of a wake-up call week one, he'll ultimately start. No, he's your 5th or 6th best guy right now, which is disappointing, but at the same time, I think if you ask most people, the secondary is probably the position group outside of quarterback, wide receiver that you feel the best about on this team, and Terrence Brooks isn't really a factor.
It's crazy.
Pretty remarkable, but at the same time, how good could you be if he was as advertised? I don't know. And is this a guy that would be willing to stick around because he has another year next year? Is this a guy that is going to be unhappy with how this whole thing has played out? If you do get a guy that talented for a second year in your program, maybe things look a little different. But yeah, no, that one play as the ball was in the air, I think everybody collectively was like, hey, Terrence, turn your head around. You're going to pick this ball off each play. Instead, it's a pass interference, which is, I hate that play so much. Now, it was a really poor play, but I hate Drew Aller underthrew that ball by 10 yards, and it's a PI. That's such a common play in football now.
It is. It is tough when you have that where it's underthrown, but yeah, he's got to be better than that. Got to get the head around for sure. Before we move on, one last thing I wanted to bring up as far as a storyline and kind of a temperature read going into this bye week and after 5 games. Where's your confidence level in Luke Altmaier at this point in time? The numbers aren't great for what he did there on Saturday night, 16 of 25, 185 yards, touchdown, a pick. His QBR out of 100 was 37. I know he's now on the season long, dipped a little bit, whether you're looking at PFF or you're looking at QBR. He's not a top 20 quarterback nationally, more like a top 50. I'd take that all day long. For me, I'll give my answer first. Like, I still have a good amount of confidence in Luke Altmyer. I've been impressed. Even in a tough situation on Saturday night, I thought he showed toughness. He's made good throws. I think going on the road, both at Nebraska and Penn State, and have a quarterback lead you down the field and score touchdowns is a big deal. And I like what he's doing. Is he perfect? No. Does he have some things that he can clean up? And does he have to adjust to a tough situation with the offensive line where maybe he has to get rid of a football here quicker and whatnot? Yes, but I like what I've seen. He's impressed me. I was one of those that wondered and questioned and wasn't quick to say, yeah, he's a dude going into this season. Like, he's pretty darn good.
He is. He's been great. I thought he didn't play great, but I think a lot of it wasn't really his fault in terms of what happened against Penn State. I think there's probably some plays where he was a little hesitant, which I think is still the one thing that you want to see from him going forward, is just to really kind of cut out a lot of that hesitancy. Now, I think it's led to him, obviously his first interception came on that last drive of the season in Game 5 against Penn State. I think there's a few times where I still want to see Luke like pull the trigger a little quicker, or when Pat Bryant or Zachary Franklin has a one-on-one matchup, just let it rip. Let those guys go make a play. Worst case, you make a mistake and whatnot. But I really overall think Luke has a great command of Barry Lunney's offense in year 2. I think that's the biggest thing that stood out. He's just really comfortable, especially out of the gates in these games. On these opening scripted drives, it's like Luke Altmyer knows exactly what's going on. He's led this team down the field, has a great command of the offense. I think the fact that he has protected the ball and really not hurt Illinois, it was a bad interception that he threw late, but it was, Illinois probably wasn't going to win that game anyway. He just got fooled. That's going to happen. I think he has really been impressive, and he's gotten to a point now where, to me, I enter every game knowing Luke Altmyer will not be the reason you lose tonight. Like, Luke Altmyer is going to do enough to win on almost every night, every game, but I think there's still plenty of room for him to grow, and I think to get to a point, even you look at some of these numbers, like to get to a point where he can elevate your offense to I don't know. I don't necessarily know how I want to phrase this, but like, is he at a point right now where you're going to win a game because he's going to have a spectacular game for you? I think that's maybe the next step of where maybe he can lead your team to victory. I think right now he's in a position where he has a good command of the offense, and you're never going to lose because of him. Can he elevate an offense himself? Maybe that's the next step for him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, certainly. If you want to weigh in, you can. 217-359-2255 in the Max Twin City Recycling text line. There's a pivotal game going on right now in baseball that will put the finishing touches on the postseason picture. We'll tell you about that coming up next. It is The Drive.
Solar companies are on the rise, here today and gone tomorrow. Rector Solar and Roofing family roots back 4 generations, living and working in Central Illinois, with the goal to take the confusion out of replacing a roof or adding solar panels to your home or business. With all the incentives and rebates now available, solar is more affordable than ever. Let a knowledgeable representative take the worry and guesswork out of solar and get a free quote. Discover the Rector Factor for solar. Call 217-281-7000 or visit rectorsolar.com.
I'm Justin Ike, co-owner of Fred's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, Electric, and Underground.
So, Justin, tell me what you see as typical when it comes to sewer repair. Give me a scenario.
Your sewer's backed up and somebody comes along and says, you need this repair for X amount of dollars. Here's my price. And you don't think to go looking for another company or a second opinion because you don't feel like you have time.
So is it possible that you might get charged a little more because it's kind of a desperate moment? Do some companies do that?
Oh, absolutely they will. They know you're in a pinch. Typically, if you call us, me or Will can be out there within an hour to look at that problem for you. Whether you call me first or you call me second, make sure you give me a call.
Anything else, Justin?
You can always trust Fred's.
Great to know. Thank you. That's Justin Ike, the co-owner of Fred's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, Electric, and Underground. If you want more information about this great 45-year family-owned company, just go to fredscu.com. That's fredscu.com.
We all have a mission in life, something that drives us to explore, to grow, to love. And when we discover it, we're made whole. At OSF Healthcare, we want you to be the best you possible. We're here for you on your schedule to make your life just a little bit easier. Whatever your mission is, we're here to support it. Your life, our mission. Learn more at osfhealthcare.org/mission.
You've set your financial goals. One kid plans to go Big Ten, the other Ivy. Your bucket list includes seaside sunrises and sunsets on the slopes, or perhaps a second home away from it all. Busey Bank can help develop the right investment strategy to take charge of the years ahead. Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. Proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
Do you need some extra cash?
Be a special census field representative and make $18.83 an hour. You'll be working a small area on campus and have some flexibility with this job.
A special census is coming to campus residents around the University of Illinois. Field representatives are needed through November with Urbana's partial special census.
Visit urbanaillinois.us/census jobs.
Make $18.83 an hour. Visit usajobs.gov/jobs and look for the city of Urbana.
You have money laying all around your house. You just don't know it. And no, I don't mean selling your great-grandma's good china. I mean all the old metal items you don't want to use or get rid of. Don't pay someone to haul it away. Bring it into Max Twin City Recycling and get paid to have it taken off your hands. They love new customers and are more than willing to walk you through their process step by step. Come check them out at 2808 North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana.
Starting it over is what we do at Max Twin City Recycling.
Attention drivers. When it comes to your car, trust matters. That's why savvy drivers choose PDR Automotive for top-notch service and unbeatable quality. From routine maintenance to complex repairs, their team of expert technicians has the skill and experience to keep your vehicle running smoothly. At PDR Automotive, customer satisfaction is their priority, and they won't rest until your car is back on the road performing at its best. Visit PDR Automotive in Urbana today, family owned and operated for more than 50 years. They're what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Let's shift gears a little bit, talk some baseball. We got a full slate of playoff baseball tomorrow, starting with Astros Tigers at 1:30 on ABC, Royals Orioles. The NL picture, though, still decently in flux. We know one of the wild card teams that will be making an appearance, that being the New York Mets. Will it also be the Braves or the D-backs? They're trying to sort that out right now in Atlanta. What a wild one that was. Kyle,
what a weird situation in general. Let's talk about that for a second. The fact that the Hurricane postponed 2 games the final week of the season between 2 teams who were tied in the wild card. So you have to play a doubleheader on Monday, a day before a wild card series is going to start. And the scenario, it couldn't be more complicated because if the team split the series, they're both in. If one of them gets swept, then the D-backs swoop in, and they're sitting there not playing. And the Mets take a crazy game 1, and now you head into game 2. And what's the incentive for the Mets to try at all? Like, you should be trying to rest everybody, not pitch any pitcher you want to pitch in that wild card series. Meanwhile, the Braves were going to start Chris Sale, but then he has back spasms. Were those real or not? I don't know. Just a crazy situation to have on the Monday before the playoffs start. But that game 1 earlier was crazy.
You better hope those back spasms are real if they lose this game.
Right, yeah.
If they lose this game to the Mets. Now, the Braves currently up 1-0, top of the 4th. The Braves started Grant Holmes, who admittedly, and look, I haven't watched baseball that closely for a number of months now, but he has not given up a hit, 6 strikeouts through 3 1/3, so he's doing his job on the mound for the Braves.
If you're both teams, don't you just you meet pregame and you're like, all right, we're going to really compete hard and make this game 1 like a playoff game, and then whoever wins the other one, we're not going to give any
And
effort.
then we go out
in
for
game two.
beers actually,
you guys can have that one. We're not going to actually try it all. You go ahead and start Grant Holmes.
They each got to travel, though. I guess one goes to Milwaukee and one goes to San Diego.
I guess it's for seeding, yeah. Well, that's a good point. I would much rather play Milwaukee if I'm one of those teams, but I don't know. It's not worth. I don't think the opponent in a 3-game series is worth like throwing one of your best guys
for sure
today.
For sure. Let's talk about that game one, though. I missed towards the end. I think we were on the air with Jay or getting ready to be. I saw that the Braves had an early 3-0 lead, then a 6-run inning for the Mets. Brandon Nimmo hit a huge towering home run. 6-run 8th inning for the Mets. And what I didn't see was then Atlanta responds in that bottom half with 4 runs of their own to regain the lead.
Ozzie Albies 2-out bases clearing double to give the Braves the lead.
So it was 3-0, then 6-3 Mets, then 7-6 Braves going to the top of the 9th, and the Mets scored 2.
Francisco Lindor 2-run homer.
Man.
In the top of the 9th. Just a crazy 3 half innings.
And the Mets closed that out 8-7. And a Mets franchise that has been poked fun at a lot through the years recently because they've spent as much money as anybody, and they were looking pretty poor through the start of this season. Did they make the playoffs last year? Or they?
I don't think so.
Yeah. They've underachieved relative to spending like $300 million. They've also been known as kind of some chokers here and there. But yeah, the Mets going to the postseason have been one of the better teams in baseball in the second half.
Yeah, and even like as late as sometime in August, the Braves were in full control. Like they were the top wild card team. Obviously, the Phillies have had control of that division all year, but they were like 5 games up on anybody. And then all of a sudden, the Padres had a crazy record. The Braves really struggled. The Mets won. At some point, they had a crazy streak going. The D-backs had a crazy streak going. All of a sudden, the Braves were actually, I think, 2 games back at one point last week, and then they won a series this weekend to get tied. It's just been the NL wildcard race is as crazy as I've seen it in a long time. Unfortunately, the Chicago Cubs couldn't be a part of it 6 back. But, yeah, I don't know. Do you have any opinion one way or another on those 3 teams in terms of being one of, like we saw the D-backs win the NL last year? Could either of these 3 teams threaten the Phillies or Dodgers? I feel like the Mets have something about them
magic
right
to
now.
them, yeah.
I don't know. Their lineup's been fantastic, and they've pitched great recently. Their bullpen has rounded into form. There's something about them. They've just been on fire.
Yeah, Lindor's had a really good year. Alonso, as we know, is a guy that brings big-time pop and whatnot. So, yeah, whatever it is that they're cooking with here in the second half, they were on, like you said, a great long streak. They've also got the Grimace magic, the McDonald's Grimace magic. But, yeah, and the D-backs really have themselves to blame here, where they're a team because of their experience, and I like some of their pieces. I would have thought that could be a squad that would go on another run this year, but while they were hot through, August into September, they lost like 4 of their last 6. They had a lot of control on their plate, but lost a couple of games at home to the Giants. The tough series against San Diego to close it out, but lost 2 of 3 there as well. So they've put themselves in position to be floating in the wind here in this final game. But I'm with you on the Braves, or I should say, I'm with you on the Mets. Braves, another team that have been there, but they've had injuries and just haven't seemed like the same squad this season.
Now, that rotation for Atlanta, if you throw Chris Sale, and then I know Reynaldo Lopez has been incredible as well, that could scare you, especially in a 3-game series.
Sale's been unreal. I mean, he's going to be the NL Cy Young. Is he 18-3 or something like that?
Yeah. I guess it's probably between him and Zach Wheeler. Probably lean him. But, yeah, he's been incredible.
I should probably know this, I guess, if I was paying attention on a day-to-day basis. Is Kodai Senga hurt again for the Mets, or is he pitching again?
I'm not sure. He was hurt.
I think he's
for
on
a
a
while.
rehab start. He came back. I do see now shut down for the remainder of the regular season. So I don't know if he's going to be available or not. But the guy with the ghost fork could be a big factor in how far the Mets would go because when he's on, I mean, he's an electric starting pitcher.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, that forkball is unreal. Who else is the Mets in that rotation? I know they still had Jose Quintana going out there, right?
I think so.
He's had a
Sean
solid
Manaea,
year.
Luis
that
Severino.
Doesn't really on paper scare you that much, but
No.
all those guys have been really solid in that lineup. Yeah, Lindor has been what a season. I mean, he's especially when you throw in the defensive value he's brought in the stolen bases. I don't know how many of those he has, but he's been incredible. He's probably obviously he has no chance of winning it based on what Shohei Ohtani has done, but probably a top 5 MVP guy, top 3.
Yeah, he's been outstanding for sure. Any opinions? We can get into this more as the week goes on, but as far as the postseason picture as a whole, any teams you're liking as they're trending into this postseason?
I think the Phillies are the best team in the NL. For as much as that Dodger lineup is just incredible and what Shohei Ohtani's doing, the Phillies to me, and I know that they've done it often here. I think have they gone to 2 World Series in the last couple of years, or was it just the one?
I think it was just the one, I believe. I'd have to look that up.
Feels like they've made at least a couple different runs to the NLCS.
They were really good last year, but lost to the D-backs.
That's right.
The year before that, they were in the World Series.
But I think they, especially with what their rotation has done to pair with everything you have in that lineup, like they came to Wrigley the Cubs went to Philly this past week, and you look up and down that lineup, and there's not a lot of outs in there. I just think the Phillies are the most complete team in the NL. They're probably my pick to win the World Series today.
Yeah, they lost in Game 7 last year in the CS, and then they were in the World Series the year before. And, yeah, that lineup is a monster. I love watching, number one, those home environments there in Philly on a playoff type of stage, and the way that Bryce Harper, what he's been in the postseason, that's taken him to a different level of superstardom, and I've just thoroughly enjoyed watching him and Schwarber and Trey Turner. They just got so much that can hurt you in that lineup, and then certainly with Wheeler and Nola and is it Sanchez that's pitched well as well.
Suarez hasn't had a great second half, but he still finishes with a 3.46 ERA in 27 starts. Like, those are your 4 for a 7-game CS or World Series with that lineup. If I had to pick a team today to win the whole thing, the NL, yes, although I think you never know what's going to happen in baseball. That's why I love the MLB playoffs. But if we get a Phillies-Dodgers NLCS, that could be an epic series. But I would take the Phillies over any team in baseball heading into the postseason.
Yeah, that's hard to argue with. It'd be fun in like another team that's really thrived in the second half. San Diego, all of a sudden, is not one to look past. I mean,
they're really dangerous.
Their rotation in particular.
Who would they play if they win in the wild card? Would it be the Phillies or Dodgers? I'm not sure.
That's a good question. I think the Dodgers are the 1 seed in the National League with 98 wins. Phillies have 95. The Padres would be the top wild card team, yeah.
Or do they reseed in baseball, or is it?
They've changed the format.
They do
so
that in
many
the
times.
NFL. I can't keep track of what. I think they play the Dodgers.
Okay.
That would be a fun 5-game
Incredible.
series.
Yeah.
That'd be a electric 5-game series.
A 309 says the Yankees, as far as the team that you're buying going into the postseason. I like them. I felt like this has been. I bet them preseason to win the World Series. It felt like this is their time to finally break through. I do worry about their lineup outside of their main awesome AL MVP candidates, and obviously Judge is going to win it, but Judge and Soto, like the supporting cast outside of that has seemed pretty lackluster on the whole. Like Stanton can be a problem certainly when he's going. Austin Wells has been in the American League Rookie of the Year chase, but some of that has been a problem for them. They do get good pitching though. Heel and Cole, and they've got. I think they've got a really good chance, especially as Baltimore's cooled off down the stretch.
If you're asking me for a team I'll be rooting for heading into the playoffs, the Detroit Tigers. I mean, who can't love what that story has been? What a run for them, for Detroit.
Can't believe it, man.
A Detroit team that 2 months ago was like, oh, it's the same old. This Tigers team's awful, and they go on this. I mean, they haven't been awful at any point this year, but they were well outside of the playoff picture. And the last 2 months that they've had now getting in for the first time, and it's the first time in over a decade that they made the playoffs. Is that what it
sounds
was?
right. I mean, has it been since like the Verlander, Miguel
I think
Cabrera days? Wow.
I think it has. And that's just been a fun team, a fun story. If they could upset the Astros, which is going to be a tall task because the Astros are inevitable, that's the team I'll be rooting for, especially in the AL.
Scooball. Is it Scooble or Scooball?
It is Scooble versus Valdez tomorrow.
Yeah,
That's,
Scooble is
1:30.
a fun watch, man. He's been insane. So maybe they can get game one and make things interesting there against Houston. Randy has a good text on the Max Twin City Recycling text line. After a crap summer of baseball, it's nice to see some good ball and crowd enthusiasm. Schwarber's still my favorite player.
I love Schwarbs.
I'm
Love that guy.
excited to dial back into baseball. I started to get back into it here recently, watching some of the wild card and the division chases down the stretch. And I'm looking forward to now watching. I mean, playoff environments are always electric. And then when this first weekend or first week stretch where you get games all day long, like you're going to have a game from 1 p.m. all the way through the night. Like I'm excited for this thing to get going.
Should be, yeah, and there's already some great matchups even in this wild. Yeah, Houston, Detroit, Baltimore, Kansas City. You get San Diego and maybe the Mets, or I guess it'd be San Diego and Atlanta if Atlanta holds on in this game, and then Milwaukee and the Mets. Yeah, that's some fun baseball right there. And then, yeah, you got the Dodgers, Phillies, Yankees, and who else is waiting in the AL? Guardians?
Yeah, Guardians. Don't sleep on the Guardians, right?
Yeah. How do they do it? I don't get. I don't understand them in Milwaukee. I'll just never understand. Those organizations have everything figured out.
You just gotta have a bottom 5 to 10 payroll, which the Cardinals are now going to have. So we'll do that tomorrow when Lante's back. Him and I will discuss the changes coming for the St. Louis Cardinals baseball. We will take a break and finish out the show. Before that, I got to do a little work. Let me tell you about Busey. October is National Preparedness Month, a month dedicated to where the awareness and preparations for emergencies that can happen anywhere at any time is certainly important to keep in mind. Now more so than ever, certainly Hurricane Helene has brought to attention what natural disasters can present, and certainly you want to be in position to have something that if you need to dig into that savings account, need to have something put away, that's always good. So Busey has a couple of tips. Save money in an emergency savings account. To open a new account, you can reach your local Busey branch or use the new online account opening option through Busey.com. Have access to important documents to start the recovery process quickly and efficiently. Store those documents in a safe deposit box or safe in your house. And secure property, health, and life insurance if you don't already have them. Review your policy to make sure the amount and type of coverages you have meets the requirements for all possible hazards. For more information, visit Busey.com or visit them at one of their many convenient locations. Busey, member FDIC.
The 1078 Foundation will benefit from the Back the Badge concert with Warrant Friday, October 4th. Go online and get your general admission tickets for $25 or Party Pit passes at $45 each. Try to win from Stevie J Broadcasting as you text in Warrant to 217-359-2255 with Big Guns, the opening act before Warrant. It'll be a great night as we support the mental health of our local first responders with the newly developed Anchor Point. Go online to get your tickets with Stephanie Pratt, the realtor that rocks, from Coldwell Banker Real Estate Group and Stevie J Broadcasting.
It's football season. You know what that means? It means the Jay Lehman Hour, Mondays at 3 on Stevie J Broadcasting. Get insight from me, the All-American linebacker and former Illini legend. On ESPN 93.5, we'll be talking Illini football and, of course, the Bears. Let's go, ILL.
Bear down, Chicago Bears. Hear the NFL action on Q96, your new radio broadcast home for the Chicago Bears.
Attention all truck drivers looking for a new opportunity with great pay and amazing benefits. Gale Frericks Trucking has got you covered. Join their team, receive a $4,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, $4,000 just for coming on board. Plus, enjoy a $1,200 gross weekly pay guarantee. Drive their state-of-the-art Freightliner Cascadia trucks equipped with a revolutionary system designed to reduce weight and downtime. Get home every weekend and some nights during the week with paid vacations and holidays. They offer company-sponsored health insurance and all the benefits you deserve. Regional drivers get first priority. Don't wait. Apply in person at Dedicated Diesel, 1313 Triumph Drive, Urbana, or call Tim at 765-505-1295. That's 765-505-1295. Start your journey today with Gale Frericks Trucking.
Since 1937, Citizens Equity First Credit Union, or CEFCU, has been serving its 385,000 owners with something better than banking. We believe in an open and honest approach to handling your money. Are you ready for your next car? Enjoy low interest rates on auto loans tailored just for you. Remember, we're not a bank. We're better. Experience the CEFCU difference today, where you're not just a customer, you're an owner. Visit CEFCU.com for more details. Federally insured by NCUA.
Finishing up on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Hey, the Bears got a win yesterday. I'll take that, improving to 2-2. We're just talking off the air. Felt like Caleb, he was efficient, didn't turn the ball over, made some plays that were there. Certainly the throw to DJ Moore in the end zone was a dime. A really tight window to fit that in there and executed there. Had a nice throw to Cole Kmet over the middle as well.
Wasn't really forcing anything. I think that's the thing that he was doing early, at least from what I was watching, is you kind of expected that from a guy like him. Like, there's going to be your fair share of, oh my goodness, plays. But there was a few times where you just don't. I know you can make that throw maybe, but
yeah,
that's not a throw you can make in your third NFL game. I just thought he took care of the ball and didn't have a lot of that. So I watched a lot of that Bears game. I thought they looked good.
When you have a good defense, sometimes just that ball control and playing within yourself is what you need to win a football game.
How much are you loving that Bears defense, though? That group has been awesome.
I'm pretty fired up about it. Yeah, I know it's a Rams team that without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp certainly is a different challenge than what they would have been, but to hold them to 18 points, it felt like I was getting really frustrated with the offense early in that game, and I was like, I'm threatening. I'm the guy that threatens to turn it off and then never does. But the defense gets to play a turnover that leads to an easy touchdown, and then that started to open things up. And it was nice to see the Bears run the football a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, the defense can compete with anybody, it feels like. That Sunday night game against Houston showed a lot because that's one of the elite offenses out there in football. And they've played good enough to win every week. And it's whether the offense can come along. We know they have the weapons, the skill positions, the offensive line, and obviously Caleb playing more consistent. So I'll take a win, though, 24-18 there against the Rams. And the schedule going forward is still pretty favorable. You get the Panthers at home. You get the Jaguars in London, then at the Commanders. I said to you off the air, it's so, like, such a easy thing to be baited into as a fan of, like, oh man, did the Bears mess up and not get Jaden? I'm not doing that, but Jaden Daniels has looked incredible. He's been one of the stories in the NFL so far. I hope that we see progress enough the next 2 weeks at home, albeit, which is for the Panthers, and then the Jags, who look like a dumpster fire. Well, they have a new coach by then. Before you then go to Washington, hopefully Caleb's playing well enough to hang tough with Jaden Daniels by then. But Jaden's been really impressive. And I can say that because Lon's not here. They were thrashing the Arizona Cardinals.
They
there
were.
yesterday.
No, he has been. Chase Brown